welcome to another episode of the Partnered Up Podcast. I'm Sergio.
And I'm Kimberly.
And we are finally at our 22nd episode. And it's a milestone episode because this episode is the one that says we're for real.
Yeah.
So, like we had mentioned in episode, what was it, 19?
19 or 20.
Yeah, we had mentioned that around 90% of podcasts fall off around episode 21 or never even make it to episode 21. Mm-hmm. And we are now officially 22, so we've made it past episode 22. So
past
episode 21. Yeah. We're in episode 22, so we made it past episode 21, which means we're serious about this. And if you're serious about your security, then you should check out our sponsor, Incogni. No, I'm kidding.
No, we don't have any sponsors.
We don't have any sponsors, but now is around the time where we can be like, hey.
Hydro Jug should sponsor us because this has been featured in every single episode and in the thumbnail. Free advertising. I love my Hydro Jug. There's a whole story behind it of why I got it. And if they sponsor us, I will tell that story. So tag Hydro Jug to say we want to hear Kimberly's story about how she got her Hydro Jug.
Is it a good story, though?
Yeah, it's a good story.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
You promise?
Yes. You don't remember the story?
I don't at all.
Wow. What a husband.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out whenever they sponsor us. Tag them below.
All right, Kimberly. So let's talk about, I feel now, I didn't want to just jump into like current events. I mean, I think at this point it might be our people who listen to us, our whole 67 subscribers. Mm-hmm. Actually,
Woo.
I don't know if that's even accurate anymore. Let's find out.
Side note, we have a little audience here because somebody woke up from their nap early. So in case you hear a little bit of goo goo and gagaing, that's Aurelia in the back for you.
But the show must go on. So
show must go on. We have 74.
Exactly. That's
74.
What I said. We've gone from 67 to 74 followers.
We've gotten 15 subscribers in the last 28 days.
Definitely still not enough to actually monetize.
No, definitely not.
We are looking for 500 subscribers, guys. So we've put out 22 episodes. We're serious. Recommend us to your friends, to your family, whoever you think would resonate with our point of view.
Yeah.
We're just a couple of, millennials and, actually we span 2 generations, right? Because I'm technically Gen Z and you're technically a millennial.
Technically,
so you're the youngest millennial?
Yeah, we've talked about this.
And I'm the oldest Gen Z. So if you know anybody who would resonate with us in the tech, somebody who how would you describe this podcast? It was like a buddy.
It's a buddy podcast because there's 2 of us. Like our dynamic is a buddy podcast, but we're husband and wife. I'm right now a stay-at-home mom, but I still do like side projects and I take care of the baby full time. Yeah. And then I help, you with your projects and I try to do little things on my own. And then you have multiple things going on. So we're a little bit all over the place.
Yeah. And up until now, recommend us. That was the point of that. Mm-hmm. Closing that. Up until now, I didn't feel like we could just go and start talking about current events and topics that are out there because people would be like, well, who are you? Why should we listen to you? Mm-hmm. I feel like up to now, we've put out enough content about ourselves, who we are, to give people the context of what our background is and whether or not they feel like our background is good enough to take our word on or our opinion on. So now we can start talking about the real things.
The real news.
So, it's time to talk about the news, Kimberly.
The news? Is this like a segment or is this what is happening?
Well, it's not a segment. It's just what's really going on in the world. And
what is like on top of everyone's feed when they get on social media?
I don't think I have logged on to Facebook, YouTube, or any other sort of like social media and not seen something about the riots, protesting, or ICE raids.
God, she's so cute. Yes, I know. I know. I feel the same way on YouTube. I'm mostly on YouTube and Instagram, and that is definitely what I see most of the time. And it's sad because there's a lot of, you don't know what to believe anymore. There's fake news. There's people who exaggerate, but then you don't want to believe what's going on because it's true. Like there's videos of people who are being snatched away when they're walking home. And what's so funny? The episode of Pearson we saw, even though it was like from 5 years ago or something,
It was still relevant
the
to this
same thing
day.
is happening. How they were taking people who went to their immigration appointments, because there's a process. What people don't understand, people don't realize, is that there is a process and people follow it, and they're still penalized.
So a lot of people don't like the fact that they call illegal immigrants criminals, right? Mm-hmm. And I get that. Most people, they think criminal, they think, murderer, they think a thief, they think these high-level crimes that are associated with it. But a criminal just means that you committed a crime. Like, that's a technical term. Yeah. And the media will overload these terms to make them, to appeal to your emotions. Mm-hmm. So illegal immigrants, although they are immigrants, and that's a favorable term, there is that point of contingency that they technically are criminals because the crime that they committed is that they came into this country without going through the due process. It's not the same as being a thief. It's not the same as doing anything else, but their very presence is a crime, and that is why the term criminal is being used. And I think people who want to put your headspace into, hey, these are bad people, will lean heavily into that term, criminal. But I also think that doesn't necessarily mean that you get to treat them as they were violent offenders or as if they have defrauded their community or defrauded somebody else, right?
Yeah.
There's a thing I have found. I mean, not I have found, but I learned in Suits, the show that we watch, right?
Yeah.
For some of these crimes to actually go about, you need to prove that there was what was the word? Like
intent?
No, not intent. There was harm. That you caused harm. So if you can't prove that your crime caused harm, sometimes you can't even go to court and it gets dismissed. And it was one of those episodes where like Donna had like misinterpreted herself.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then because of that, a company was going to be in jeopardy. I won't spoil anything if you haven't seen Suits. It's a great show. But basically, the only way that they could sue Donna is if they proved that they had lost something. Mm-hmm. And the something that they would have lost would only happen if they would prove that they were guilty.
If that they committed a crime.
Exactly.
I want to circle back to what you were saying. So I've been seeing and I've heard, for a while, not even just in the past few, weeks or whatever. It says you can't be illegal on stolen land. What are your thoughts on that? I have feelings about this, but they might not be as educated as your feelings. But what do you think about that?
About what? I'm sorry?
You can't be illegal on stolen land. That quote.
I mean, it's definitely controversial.
You lean more towards like the conservative side on that, and I guess I lean more towards the liberal side on that because if someone came here and they raped or murdered somebody, 100%, they need to get out of this country. I believe that, and I believe in like
that's the violent criminal.
But I believe that also with like people who are citizens who were born here and generational. Like if you go to jail, can we kick you out to like Guantanamo or something? Like I believe that. I won't go as far as like death penalty. That conversation we can talk about later. But I don't think, not that it's a big deal. I think immigration, there's a process, but if you are just living your life, if you have a job, if you're paying taxes, then not everyone who's illegal gets paid under the table, Right. And I don't see why they're kicking it out. Like you hear all these stories, like people who were Trump supporters and who are married to people who were leaving the country. Like there was one, I think I heard that this husband heard that he voted for Trump and his wife was deported back to where she was illegal because they had like never filed for like her green card or something. And like since they didn't do the paperwork, even though she was married to a citizen, they kicked her out. Mm-hmm. And people just haven't done their research.
Yeah, because it's a whole process, right? I've had family members myself that have gone through that process successfully, and now they're here with us. But the thing you say that like you can't be illegal in stolen land, we have to recognize that there is a system in place. We have infrastructure, and that there's sovereignty and control, right? We were born into the U.S., right? And let's assume, like, when you and I were born, everybody automatically became a U.S. citizen, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And that stays it. As we grow, time moves on, there are going to be people who come into that place illegally, right? They're going to come into the United States illegally, right? There's already established infrastructure. There's paid in taxes. There's all sorts of things that are meant to be going towards the paid citizens that are here. And we need to be able to account for everyone, mainly taxes. But like you said, not all illegal immigrants don't pay taxes, right? Mm-hmm. But the infrastructure and the land that we live on are meant for citizens first. And you can't hold people accountable. You can't provide adequate regulation unless you know what's going on, how many people are here. You hold everybody accountable. That's why everybody has a social security number. That's why whenever an illegal immigrant goes through the system, they get an ITIN number, so they can be kept track of, right? That's the whole point, right? It's not the sovereign land type of thing. It's not like the whose land belongs to what. It's like, all right, we established a way of working. We all agreed to it. Doesn't matter who is yes, who is no. Now we all agree to work within the system to make it work, right? So when somebody comes and skips the system, that's not fair to the people who are actually going through the system, So then to keep accountability for the people, because then what's to stop the people who are in line doing things legally from just doing what the other people are doing,
People who are doing that are the ones who currently, with the current administration, are being targeted. Well, it's not only like violent criminals who are here illegally and who keep coming back illegally. It's people who are in the system who ICE knows where they are and knows where they live because they've done all the process.
Yeah, and that's because of the climate, right? Yeah. As every president comes in with different temperatures of tolerances, some people when Obama came in, he was real open, real liberal. He wanted to let as many people as possible, right? But it's not like he was against what's it called, deportations either. A lot of people got deported under Obama as well, right? But what Obama did is he made the process of applying and getting in here legally a lot easier. Now, Trump comes in and he's saying, no more illegal, or let's crack down on illegals. That's step one. Step two is slow the rate at which we let new people into this country, right? Because the overall idea and spirit that Trump has is keep Americans here, right? Let's work for who we got right now, right? Let's not worry about other people who are coming in or anyone. That's why the whole thing Make America Great comes. And I'm not defending it. I know people think like just explaining a concept does not mean I back the concept, okay?
Yeah.
Second, in the Obama administration, the idea was to be inclusive, bring in people, share what we have with others. So if you came in illegally and you didn't follow the process, you still got deported. But at the same time, the process to become a U.S. citizen flowed much faster, and we were able to get more legals, right? Because the spirit was to encourage immigration, versus now we're discouraging it, right? That's the difference.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that what you're saying about they want to discourage immigration they want to discourage immigration and, keep America for Americans. I feel that way about getting involved in like other countries' wars and policy makings. You know how like Trump accepted money from, I forget what country, he accepted like a private jet from some country. How before, I don't know which administration it was, but like they send money towards other countries for their wars. Like I'm not a supporter of that. I truly believe that like they should focus on what's going on here. I mean, how many times have we seen like what happened last year, like the bridge collapse? Mm-hmm. Like some of our areas,
was it the Baltimore Bridge,
something like that, and we like drove by that last year. And then water crises in some communities that don't have clean water, things like that. We should be caring more about that than other. This is becoming like a whole policies and administration episode, but that's the way I feel, rather than cracking down on these illegals who are taking our jobs. They're not taking the jobs that you think they're taking.
No. And here's the thing. Let's not go into definitives. Let's not say that they are not taking jobs, right? They're not taking the jobs you want, right? If we go all the way back to ancient Rome, right? Mm-hmm. They had slaves that were doing the grunt work that nobody else wanted, and they held status, as we learned when we went to the Colosseum.
Yeah.
They had a whole section for them, right?
Yeah.
They were treated with some level of civility, I would say. I wouldn't say respect. I don't know a whole lot of like the culture.
Yeah.
But they had a social rank that they would still be able to participate in the city.
Yeah.
Right? They had different rights as compared to citizens, just like women had different rights as compared to male citizens. I remember right?
That. Yeah.
But it was because they recognized that Rome doesn't get built by itself. Mm-hmm. It needs to get built by someone, and they wanted to keep a certain level of standard of living for the Romans. Right? The Romans are the citizens, so they recognized in order to keep the standard of living for Romans the way we want to, somebody has to do the work that we don't want to do, right? Because that is the standard of living. The standard of living is you get to do what you want, not what you don't want. But guess what? Someone has to do the things that you don't want to do, right? And that's usually what went in ancient Rome towards like the slaves, right? Mm-hmm. They got to put, I mean, even in Egypt, right? They're the ones who built the pyramids and all that, not aliens, okay? It's just hard work. It's the manual labor that goes to the least paid individuals. And this is what I don't think people get about how our economy works. Mm-hmm. Illegal immigrants don't have the luxury to pick their jobs. They get what they can find, right? Mm-hmm. The reason we offshore to Taiwan, to China, and like now we have all these tariffs imported is not because we want to support another company. Country. It's because they're doing the job that no one wants to do, sewing the shoes, and they're doing it for the cheapest.
For pennies, for literal pennies.
Because their standard of living is less than ours. So therefore, they can do it for cheaper, right? So if you bring that over to here, now you're saying, well, then we must recognize a class of people who are going to do the jobs that we don't want to do, or jobs that require less wage to do. And that's what immigrants are doing, right? I had family members that went and picked oranges, that went and worked in the fields, right? And they didn't get paid a whole lot, but I remember that even that was a lot for them at the time, right? And then people will band together. You think illegal immigrants are each in their own house, living in a car, like going to work the way everybody else in the United States is? No. You have like families of immigrants living together in one bedroom apartment. Mm-hmm. And they share the resources so that they can all come together. But they're getting paid a fraction of what a U.S. minimum wage is because they can't negotiate that way. They
have to just take what they can get. Like
exactly. So I find it funny that they're saying there's not enough jobs. They're stealing our jobs, right? But at the same time, there's a job shortage, right? Every restaurant, Every manual labor type of job, there's a job shortage. And those are the type of jobs that immigrants usually take because they're the lower class one. So instead of trying to kick all these people out who are doing the jobs that we need, why don't we just recognize them as a class, right? Maybe they don't get the full rights as a citizen does, because being a citizen means something.
Yeah.
It means you're from here, right? And if you want to be from here, you can earn it. Even Romans allowed slaves to buy their citizenship,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, Trump's doing that for his rich friends.
exactly. I mean, not to that level, right? Because it's like millions and millions of dollars to try to attract businessmen, right? But you don't just want to attract businessmen for the talent, because those are few and far between. But what if you want to attract workers, right? Because you don't want to offshore these jobs. Maybe you bring in the incentive that you obviously have a horde of people that want to come to America, and they'll do anything it takes to be in America, even be subjects to crimes themselves, even be subject to like abuse themselves just so they can be in this country. Why not harness that as a resource instead of kicking them out? Like you're leaving. I mean, if we're talking about business and just flat out resources, you're leaving money on the table. These are people who are willing to stay and do anything to stay, and you don't want to use that to the benefit of the country.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do you see roads that need potholes? I mean, there's sewers that get backed up. I mean, those are the kind of jobs that I know my people will roll up their sleeves so that their kids can get the benefits of higher education and having the public system that we have right now, right? So I'm starting to think in terms of iterations of families. I've started to notice that when I was in school, the kid next to me was not like me, but it wasn't because his parents had more money and therefore that's it. Their parents having more money and them being richer than me and being in a more well-off position wasn't a result of just their parents. It was a result of their parents' parents who built up their parents so they could go to college and doing the same thing. So when I compared myself to the student next to me, it wasn't apples to apples. They're in a very different, the only thing I can think of calling it is a family iteration. And that family iteration is higher up in like the social class because they've paid their dues. Their family members and the ones who came before have paid their dues to get that particular generation to the economic stance where they are now. Now, you always can have the family member that, breaks the chain.
Messes it up.
and you roll it back down, right? And somebody commits a crime, commits something that resets all of that. And now that gives the opportunity for another family, somebody else, to fill in this space. And that's what keeps it revolving. But that's the type of thing, that's the type of way I've started to think. And it makes me feel like we have these people who are trying to start from nothing. We obviously have a shortage in careers, in jobs that we don't want to do. Why not just pair the two instead of vilifying these people?
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's a really good point. Because you know what I've actually tried to do? I know that Shein and those other places that, to get like really cheap clothes and things made from China, all the TikTok shop stuff. I try to stay away from that just because, that is made for, I don't know if it's slave labor because, you don't really know, but it's still labor that is harmful to like lower class citizens, even in other countries, children. We don't know what their labor laws are. And I try to stick away from that. Like, they called it like fast fashion, where people who get like the trendiest clothes and they constantly get new stuff, like off those really cheap, even Amazon and Shein. And I forgot there was another one too, because you never know. And why not? Temu, yeah, that one. Like, why those companies getting your money is almost fueling the fact that people here like can't get good jobs because people are outsourcing to other countries. And the tariffs are have something to do with it. Oh yeah, we're trying to like do tariffs so encourage people to stay in the U.S. That's not going to encourage them to stay in the U.S.
That's just going to make things more expensive for every single one of us.
And exactly that's what's happening.
Literally, the only way you get that outcome is if you get that same penny's job and offer it to an American here. Mm-hmm. How many Americans do you know that are willing to work for like 10 pennies a day? It's not going to happen. The reason that works is because Taiwan has a much lower standard of living where they can live sometimes off of a couple of dollars a month, and now pennies a day works out in that society over there.
Yeah.
Now what you're saying is you want to bring that society and that way of working here. That's not going to make America great. That's going to dilute America, if you ask me. But
or drive people away. I mean, how many people we know that want to move to Europe, want to move to South America or Mexico?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
including us sometimes.
Yes. But, oh man, I had another point I was going to make. But when she brought up the Sheen, I forgot it.
Dang. If you remember, let us know.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not going to get into it, but like we're the children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren of people who came to this country for a better life. And so seeing all this stuff that's going on, I can't imagine how people who are in the thick of it, because we are the generation that got rewarded by our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents' choices. And I can't imagine being the generation that's trying, like you were saying, trying to be better for their children, grandchildren, and then being just like sucked up. Because imagine if we were in the younger generation and it was like our parents, our grandparents being taken back.
No.
Like, how would we feel? Like, I think there was this actress, I think she was on Orange is the New Black. She said that one day she got home from school and like her parents were just gone because like ICE had came and like taking them away. And like, I can't imagine.
And those are the people who are cooperating.
Yeah.
Right? Because like, I don't think you realize that. How would ICE know that her parents are there?
Besides like somebody like ratting
snitching on
them, but
yeah. But no, the what happens is they're in here long enough, they go in the system and they say, you know what, I want to be an American, I have to go through the thing, let me go talk to ICE and try to start the neutralization process. And they're checking in and they're like, okay, well, now you're on a list, let's go through the process and see what happens. Sorry, you got denied, you have a couple of days to get out of here. And if they don't comply, then guess what? I already put myself in a vulnerable position to try to go through the process, and now I'm going to get deported. Mm-hmm. That's only going to incentivize people not going through the process because they are not protected, right?
Exactly.
So it's going to incentivize people to come in here illegally and stay that way, stay hidden, stay in the shadows. And what does that promote? It promotes crime. So of course you're going to see this like pattern of violent criminals with immigrants, right? I don't mind deporting immigrants who come in here and then violently take advantage of another, especially U.S. citizen, right? But I mean, sometimes even within immigrants, right? They will take advantage of each other and abuse each other, but they don't have the benefit of going to the cops.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't think enough people stop and think of what they are going through. And by they, I mean the immigrants. Mm-hmm. And they just want a quick solution and say, yeah, no, that ain't me. Bye. And that's all.
We're all just like blessed to be born where we're born. Well, what does that say that you should have been born in like El Salvador, you know? Mm-hmm. And then you get threatened by gangs every day. Or your parents, you know, are held up at gunpoint unless they pay like, you know, $1,000 to them.
I wouldn't say that you're lucky to be born here. I would say you're lucky to be born into the family structure that you got born, right?
Yeah.
Because my parents could have made the decision of saying, meh, things are too expensive here and they're too hard. I don't want to learn English. I don't want to learn the way of doing this. And we're just going to go back to Mexico. And then I would have been born in Mexico, right? But no, we decided, hey, we know it's better here, right? We have more opportunities here, so we're going to tough it out. We're going to stay here. And I was born here. I wasn't lucky to be born here. My parents put in the effort so that I would be born here, right? Maybe it wouldn't be me. It would have been some other variation of my mom and my dad combined, might have been a different child, but that hypothetical child that they would have here in the United States wouldn't be lucky to be in the United States. There was a lot of effort by my grandparents and my parents to make sure that me and my siblings and my family's kids were born here. So I also think that means something, right? The effort of someone wanting to leave their family tree in a better position than they got it, that deserves some credit, not just you're lucky you come from a rich family. Yeah. No. Your parents obviously did something well.
Yeah, and it's great because most of my grandparents were born here in the United States. So I'm like what is that? How many generations?
Third or fourth generation?
Yeah. One of my grandparents, though, did come to the U.S. as a teenager. And, like, I've heard the story of how she came here. And I can't imagine at the age she was like 12, 13, moving away from everything you knew to a different country. And, yeah, I was by the border, but it was still a whole different country. I mean, seeing Reynosa versus Far, like, you can tell the difference,
But some people don't even know that. Don't even know the complete difference that crossing the border gets you.
Yeah.
What you're saying?
No. I'm just saying, like I can't imagine doing that. Like being grateful towards like the choices they made. Technically, it was my great grandma who made the choice because my grandma was a little teenager, But so it was like that. She made the choice, and she was a widow when she made that choice. So. Like, and she did it all by herself with like no education, like, and there should be opportunities of people like that who she was in a bad position. She wanted better for her children and for her children's children. And then for me, because I'm, I'm a result of that. And I've never met her. She passed away before I was born, but like, because of the choices she made, I am living in Austin, Texas with a husband who works a, Shanji Tech's job. Being able to stay home with my kid. And because of her, because what if they wouldn't have left? Well, they were still in the little like ranchito somewhere in Mexico. Like what would I be then?
You wouldn't even have an H-E-B to go to and grab clothes or groceries or anything. You might have had to farm your own.
Yeah, I would have the little like just tiny little store that gets a shipment once a month that I wouldn't even be, or would I even be here because my dad's parents were, I think, born here. So
yeah, I mean,
my mom,
you, Kimberly, in your current iteration wouldn't be here.
Yeah. It's just crazy the choices that our like grandparents, great grandparents made.
But I repeat, like a lot of people just like to think, no, you're lucky. It wasn't luck. Okay. There a lot of people's choices, a lot of people's lives, their entire lives go to what you are.
And that's what the immigrants that they're choosing to kick out or not let in, like, that was our grandparents, great grandparents. Mm-hmm. So who's to say that the next, person who just, they say like the whole argument for abortion is like, well, what if you aborted the person who cured cancer? Well, what if you didn't let in somebody who would have had a child who cured cancer? Yeah. That you can argue the exact same thing. And this is a whole other thing. Maybe we're going to get like, oh boy, shit in the comments, but like, who are you if you say you're a good person in I guess this country, like the majority religion is Christianity, like if you say you're a good Christian, like do you really think Jesus would go and be like, yeah, let's kick him out, let's go violently grab this person and throw them out of the country because there's on a certain paper? Don't you remember when he was like throwing tables? Yeah. And like he's like, this shouldn't go in my father's house. I feel like he would do that in our country. Be like, this isn't right. Not to get like into a religious, debate here, but that's my opinion.
No, yeah, I mean the whole point of Christianity is anybody can be redeemed and everybody's welcome, right? That's why you see a lot of people who are coming back from like crime. They end up going into church, and they help rehabilitate them, right? Because the whole point of Christianity is forgiveness, right? No matter what you did, you are forgiven through the Lord.
Yeah, and I don't think we have an official religion in the United States, but we are technically one nation under God, right?
Not anymore. They took that out.
They took that out?
I heard. I mean, let's see.
Who took that out?
That's the pledge.
The pledge still says that. I don't remember last time I said the pledge unfortunately. But
Still include under God. There you go. Yes. Okay. It's still okay. One nation under God.
Yeah, I don't think they would have taken that out.
Cool. No, I remember there were talks. I just didn't remember. But yeah, even that is contentious because the separation of church and state.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, like, take religion out of it. We're the big melting pot, right?
Yes. This country started as a place people could come free. It's free of persecution, starting with the Pilgrims, right? They came here for religious freedom, and other people came here so they could have the freedom. And does this really make our country free? Does this make us? What does this make us? What will people remember this time in history as? Because of the choices our leaders are making.
I remember what I was going to say.
What were you going to say?
So, we were talking about the deportations being treated as criminals, right?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of TikToks right now going around and stories and reels and whatnot of like how the rhetoric right now is very similar to the Nazis.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people hear the word Nazi, and at this point, I just think it's like the word demon, right? Like the word Nazi has been demonized so much that people hear it and they immediately roll their eyes and they think you're exaggerating.
Fun fact, my grandpa killed Nazis.
Yes.
The story for another day.
World War II veteran.
Yes.
Killed Nazis.
Story for another day.
But did you know that there was, we're talking about the melting pot, right? Mm-hmm. America doesn't build itself. So a lot of the times, how did America get skyscrapers? You think New York just built itself? It was through braceros.
Braceros, I forgot the name, but you've told me this, yes.
Yes. So what they would do is to get the workforce that they needed, because we didn't have the population at the time, mm-hmm. What we did is we incentivized other communities, other countries around us to come to the United States and work as a specific field with companies. So that's how like H-1B visas and all that get started. Like you sponsor the visa through a company, mm-hmm. right? So a steel mill might hire a Chinese worker and they would get their visa sponsored so that they could make the steel to make the high rises, right? So that's been a precedent long set. That's how we would attract low unskilled labor to get the things built. For a decent cost, right?
Yeah.
That goes back to what I was saying. So in Mexico, I was watching a documentary about this, that when we were bringing in people from Mexico, people looked at Mexicans with disgust. And a lot of the problems they were having is that they would come with piojos. What's piojos?
Fleas?
No, not fleas.
Lice.
It's lice.
Lice.
They come with lice.
Uh-huh.
So what they would start to do is they would use a chemical to get the lice off of them, right? Mm-hmm. The chemical that they used was eventually going down and derived into Zyklon B, because German officers before the war were looking at the way we were intaking immigrants, and they saw, oh, look, they bring in railroad carts immigrants, they pass them through, and the way they're screaming, taking off the lice, they put them in baths. They would strip down the
gas
immigrants.
Chambers, basically.
Mm-hmm. They would strip down immigrants in line, in plain sight of everyone, wash them down, use, I don't know if it was Zyklon B or a like earlier version of it, mm-hmm. to get the lice and kill any parasites off of them, and then they would let them in the country. So they would like dehumanize them, humiliate them, wash them, and then let them in the country because they were dirty Mexicans. That's what most of the time.
Not a quote from Sergio, but
right. No, this is history, right? Yeah. That I didn't even know about this. So then a German officer went back to Germany, saw the efficiency of how the United States was pulling in immigrants, and implemented in their death camps during World War II.
So they got the idea from Americans.
Right. So who is behaving like literal Nazis? Right? It's the same behavior that we've had. So if you keep demonizing just dehumanizing immigrants, it's going to come back full circle.
Yeah.
There's a saying.
History is a circle.
There's a saying. It says, history doesn't repeat itself, but boy, does it rhyme. You know, the same thing exactly might not happen, right? Everyone's comparing Donald Trump to Hitler and saying how all of these are just Nazis, the right is that, and it's all going to happen again. It might not happen the exact same way, but boy, it can get to just as bad as that.
Yeah. What should people do? I think people need to get educated on what's happening. Don't believe everything you see on social media. But talk to your community, see what's going on, and be safe.
I am weary of media. Be weary of media.
Yeah.
I think something that separates me from most is I am very critical of the content that I watch.
Yeah.
I don't just listen to random YouTubers. I can hear when someone is trying to rile me up. Mm-hmm. Like, pay attention when you're watching stories, reels. Like, listen to the tone that people are talking to. Like, go look at Carson. What is it? Not Carson Tucker's. One of the big guys. Sort of like oh man, I forget him. But like the right has just the people who speak in the same tone and the manner that the left does. They both have the same type of people. These are hype men. They're people who are intentionally just trying to make you mad, to get you to engage. They don't care of like the actual ideology. All they want is their views. They want their engagement. And they want you to
fight in the comments.
Right. And they will manipulate your emotions, your thoughts into thinking a certain way. So just step one, be a little bit more critical on the people that you listen to and their opinions, which is why I didn't want to talk about anything like this until people heard our background, heard our story, saw that we're college-educated people. We are in the industry. You know, we have experience. We're not just talking out of our ass. We know what these things are, and we're not just here to try to get likes. For God's sakes, we're not even monetized.
Yeah, I know.
So that would be my advice. Make sure you start to recognize the signs when someone's just trying to get your engagement and not genuinely trying to inform you. All right. And with that, we'll conclude episode 22. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Sergio.
And I'm Kimberly.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
One, two, three. Try it one more time. 1, 2, 3.
No.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That last one.
Can you like make sure the audio and the video record at the same time? Thanks.
No. You know, I want you to know that when it lines up, it's because I did a good job. But that's optional.
Can you be better?